like to look at things quite simply when it comes to social media. I find that LinkedIn as well is something that most people complicate. And for those of you that are using platforms like LinkedIn or any other social media platforms, to be fair, to generate business, there's I guess, a thing that I want to make you aware of right at the beginning. And that is if you are using these platforms and you have been using them for a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you're not seeing consistent sales from it, you're typically doing something wrong. And in these steps, you're going to be able to self identify with the certain things that you may have, maybe gaps, maybe things that you can improve on. But what I guess let down by with lots of people giving social media advice out there these days is that people use consistency as a reason why you're failing. Give me a yes in the chat box if you ever heard that before. The reason you've not seen results is just because you've not been consistent. Now, consistency is a weird one for me because yes, consistency is important, but if you're consistently doing the wrong things, you're never going to see the result that you want. And it's why where if you look at any of the customers that we work with inside of our academy, whatever membership, whether it's a £50 a month or if it's our pro version at £500 a month, it's the reason why we see results relatively quickly, because actually, if we can find people that are active on these platforms right now, there's lots of low-hanging fruit out there for you. You just need to understand what it is that you're doing wrong and fix it quickly, because anyone can start generating revenue from these platforms if you start to do the basics well enough and start to understand that it's not about algorithms. It's not about the technical detail of what makes these platforms work. It's understanding that behind each of your devices, mobiles, desktops, whatever it is that you're using to be on them, are humans. And when it comes to getting results from these platforms, it's two things that you need: an understanding of human psychology, which I'm going to be sharing with you on this, and then simple marketing and sales process. And so this workshop that I'm going to be going through with you today is about generating new business using, I'm going to focus in on LinkedIn today, but social media in general, to be fair. And the timeline that I'm going to put it, and it's going to be a challenge to you all, is to take this information that I'm going to give you and look to focus in on generating money from it in 30 days or less, because that is a target that we set for every single person that we work with. And with it, I think it's important to lay the foundations of where this information has come from. For those of you that don't know me very well, I probably speak to 15 to 20 businesses pretty much a week at the moment. And the businesses range from one-man bands, solopreneurs, up to businesses that have got teams of 20 or 30. And I'm finding that whether it's a customer I'm speaking to or whether it is a prospect that's online that's just reached out looking for some help, that there are reasons why people are struggling right now. And when we think about revenue generation specifically, not just about getting attention on these platforms, but generating revenue from them, there are 5 things that I find hold people back. And what I want you to do as I bring up each of these 5 reasons is think about which one may most resonate with you right now, because these 5 things I don't just hear once in a blue moon, I hear them all the time. And with it, when I then break down and identify the gaps that you've got, which is what this workshop's going to do today, you can start to fix them really, really quickly. And the first type of person that I see, and actually, I'm going to ask you this already, who's currently active on platforms like LinkedIn, like pretty much every day? Just give me a yes in the chat if you're active on platforms like LinkedIn right now. Alison's raised a hand in the chat. So there are people that are, the majority of people here actually are active every single day. And has anyone seen, and I'm going to change the answer here to like put the number 1 if this is something that you see, that you may post online, right? You may be commenting, but you fail to get your target market's attention. So like you're wondering why I'm building my network of these people, but they never comment on my content. They never respond to my messages. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, I was told that if I just connect with these people, that eventually they may want to start and have a conversation with me. Being active online and this is the biggest thing that I find, is no longer enough. You've got to understand how to get people's attention. And it doesn't matter if you're going for C-suite, directors, board level, or you're going for founders of teams that have got 5 employees or less. There are ways to be able to get their attention, but each person is slightly different. And there's no one size fits all approach when it comes to this stuff. And this is the big thing, which so many people out there are teaching, is that if you just do this one thing, then everything's going to change. That couldn't be further away from the truth. What you've got to work out is what makes the individual that you're trying to target tick. What's going to make them react? What's going to make them want to respond? And within this workshop today, I'm going to be talking to you all about that. But one of the things that I'm finding is that people don't know how to get their target market's attention. And again, with it, there's certain things that you can do right away to improve it. So that's the first reason. Number 2 is actually reliance. And one of the things that holds it is actually that just not enough people, strangers specifically, either understand what you do to a high enough level to want to work with you, or 2, genuinely just don't know what you do in the first place. And so your network's not big enough. And number 2 is something I see is really common right now, is that people are, again, active online, but are reliant on business coming to them. And with it, there's this reactive nature to the way that they are with their marketing and sales activity. What I want to talk to you about today is how you can flip that on its head, still get those referrals and those inbounds, but actually being a bit more proactive in going out there and getting business for yourself, having a process going to allow you to consistently generate revenue in the same way that we do every single month. The third thing is a comment I hear a lot, is the fact that they're putting in more and more time on these platforms. Now, I don't know how much time you're currently putting into your social media activity. However, people are told that if they are active on these things for long enough, eventually it will happen, but the results just don't come. They may get the odd one reaction, or they may get the odd one person inquiring about what it is that they do, but it's not consistent enough, and it's definitely not worth the time that they're putting in. And so that frustration is something that we're hearing a lot right now. It's like platforms like LinkedIn, they're great for connecting with people, but people aren't seeing the results from it and therefore are starting to doubt whether it works in the first place. The fourth is actually a mindset thing. And it's this, I label it as like a scattergun approach. Now, I don't know how many of you are kind of doing these sorts of things, but it's like I'll post a bit of content. I may send some messages. I may build my network. I might go onto Instagram briefly. I may go into some Facebook groups. I may go networking. And you're trying lots of different things, waiting for something to work. And Daniel, we actually had a conversation about this. And we met up in person, didn't we, only a couple of weeks ago. And there's lots of things going on, but they're not connected. And so connection is something that I'm going to be talking to you about today, because doing one thing once is great. It's momentum, it builds and it can compound. But there's something extremely powerful when you get everything singing and dancing together. Your email list working, your website working, your LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, where everyone goes and it all speaks the same language. It's all targeted to the person you're trying to work with. And what ends up happening is you're building up touch points, you're building up dwell time to instigate those mindset shifts that you need to be able to get people to realize that they need to work with you. This scattergun approach, this mindset is holding lots of people back right now. And what I need you to come to this workshop with, and I'm going to ask you this question in a second, because I need all of you on here to agree with this, but I need you to take a step back and not think about doing more. I need you to take a step back and just look at what you're already doing and working out what needs to change. And so can I ask that of you? Can I just get in the yes in the chat if you agree with me and you're open to just actually come into this workshop being a bit more open-minded and realizing that there are some things that I may teach you today that you may not always agree with, but I'm doing it because I'm just going to open up what it is that we do with the results that back it up, because everything that we do, and I'll be talking to you about this very briefly soon, everything that I'm sharing with you today is backed up by cold, hard evidence. Like, I don't talk about anything that we haven't done ourselves or our customers haven't done and tested themselves either. And that linked to that number 5 there, right? Like, most people's strategies I'm finding, like, it's based on the hope of dream clients coming to them. And you can't build a business off the back of hope. It just doesn't happen. You've got to get control of it. And control is something, is almost like the theme of today's presentation as we go through. But I'm really curious at this point because I'm going to be covering each of those 5 points for you. But if you were going to put yourself in one of those camps, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, which one would you place yourself in? Which one do you look at yourself and you know, actually, that's probably me in that specific? That would be the thing that if I spoke to Chris, I would probably say it's either target market attention, can't get it. It's that actually just I've just got referrals and inbound, but I don't know how to do anything else. That's kind of what I do. 3 is like I'm putting in time, but it's just not consistently giving me something. 4 is that trying loads of things, but it doesn't really seem like it's all coming together at all. And 5 is just like the overarching strategy that I've got probably could do with some work. Now, looking at the answers, this is great, actually. I thank you very much. So we've got quite a number of 4s coming through. 1 seemed to be quite biased at the beginning as well, which is great. But not many. There's a couple of 3s that have just come through. I was about to say there's not many 3s there, which is fine. Okay, cool. So it looks like a bit of a split between 1 and 4, which is great because they are the 2 of the most common that we see. And it means that we can focus in and dive a little bit deeper into those elements. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So what I'd love to do, just briefly before I go into like the real detail of today, I'd love to know a little bit about you and your business and what it is that you do. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm not going to sit here like for the next 10 minutes waiting for you all to respond, but I would like to know the sort of businesses that we've got on today because there'll be a big variety, I imagine. So you don't need to, I can see your name, so that's totally fine. I'd just love to know a little bit about your business, if possible. So what is it that you sell? What's the offer? How does it work? So we've got Christina that's straight in there, project manage people's house moves, amazing. Daniel, inventors make cash on their ideas. Cool, grief recovery, mortgages, connecting centers to the client. So we've got a nice big variety here coming through. Marketing agency, public speaking, business coaching, cybersecurity, life coaching, hypnotherapy, sporting, so social media management. Cool. Okay, this is great. So we've got a real big like variety of people here, which is absolutely excellent because again, with it, the information that I'm going to give is like the overarching process. The detail of it, I will tap into certain segments when I think of examples as it comes to me as we progress through. Now, for those of you again that have been to multiple workshops, you'll back me up here. I don't spend very much time talking about who we are and what we do when it comes to these workshops, purely because 1, I know you're here for content, and 2, there is nothing worse when you go to a webinar or a workshop and you just have the person, we've all been on one, right? Where the person just talks about how great they are for an hour and you're sitting there like, well, why am I actually here? Like, I don't do that. I'm not even going to read what's on the screen there. You can read that. What I want to make you aware of is that I personally have documented my online journey for the last 5 years. So across a number of different businesses, a property business, an Instagram agency, a LinkedIn marketing consultancy, and now with socialselling.co.uk, I have documented my journey every single step of the way, the good, the bad, the ugly, the mistakes, the good stuff. And so if you ever get bored enough and you want to check me out and you want to know a little bit more about me personally, my LinkedIn profile is there. I invite you all to come and not just follow me, come and connect with me so I can see what you're up to as well. So if you scan that QR code, if we're not already connected, just put the word workshop in the connection message so I know that you were here today. And with that, what I have been doing is I typically pick 5 people per workshop, and I'll just drop you a little loom over just with some feedback on your social media accounts, just because 1, I know that you'll find value in it, and 2, if you find enough value, you may come and work with us afterwards as well. I don't have time to do everyone, but typically I'll do 5 per workshop that I do. But it's only if we're connected already, just send me the message workshop. If we're not connected, send the connection request, put the word workshop in, and over the next week or so, you will 5 of you will receive that review just from me to you. So with it, the business that I co-founded, we are branded as Social Selling. Social Selling Secrets is the free content that we're giving. We also have the Social Selling Suite, and Social Selling Academy, and something that I will be talking to you about a little bit towards the end of today. But our biggest mission is to challenge a lot of the nonsense we see out there right now. I think there's a lot of people preaching social media advice that really have no evidence behind what it is that they're doing. And I have really, over the last, I would say, 3.5 years, put to test every bit of advice that I've seen. And along with Sam, Nick, and the rest of the team, been either calling it out and debunking it or proving that it works. And we take what works and we shout about it even louder so people understand what they need to be doing to be able to win. And it all starts with this first step. And this is the real point if you haven't got your notepads out to get them out, because this is where we're going to start to go into some of the detail here. And it starts with identifying the opportunity that's in front of you right now. And the context of this is really, really important, because it doesn't matter what stage of business you're in. Each of you will have a slightly different answer to this. And this is about self-awareness and self-identification at this point. So many people that I'm speaking to at the moment are spending huge amounts of time trying to sell to people, to businesses, in industries, in sectors that just simply aren't interested in them right now. And sometimes it's quite hard to hear that, because you probably spend lots of time putting together your offers and your services, but you're trying too hard to sell to people that simply just don't want it right now. And one of the challenges that I have to overcome along with the team is understanding and trying to work out how to help people realize that there's opportunity in front of them right now that they're just not capitalizing on. We can't sit here and tell you that you need to change. You need to realize there are changes that you may need to make. And when you do, you can then test it. What I found when I was doing this, and I've got a couple of examples for you very shortly, was that when I found what we call product market fit, so when we find the right product and the right market, selling is easy. However, until you find that, it feels like a real hard slog. And this doesn't matter if you're selling online or selling offline. This is almost just like business 101. If you're trying to sell to people that don't want what you're currently selling, which I know sounds ridiculous, but people do it time and time again, or you're trying to sell to people that everyone else is trying to sell to, or you're trying to sell to people that don't see your service as a priority right now, you are going to hear objection after objection after objection. And sometimes those objections are real. And I'm going to give you a couple in a second. But a lot of the time, objections are just excuses and defense mechanisms that people use to just get you away from them. And if you were to just reframe what it is that you did or what it is that you do in a way that sparks interest, curiosity, and desire, that's suddenly where those objections no longer occur and no longer happen. I very rarely now, whenever I'm on a sales call or wherever I'm speaking to a company, very rarely come across objections, because the way that we sell is done in a way that speaks the language and speaks to a market that are genuinely really interested. And I want to ask you a question right now, and I want you to think about over the last, I don't know, let's say the last quarter, the last 90 days. And I want you to think about whether you've ever spoken to a prospect that's used one of these excuses. Number one, I can't afford it. Number two, I don't have the time to implement it. And number three is just not for me currently. Has anyone, and I'd love to know, which one have you heard of in the last 90 days? If you have, some of you may not have, and you may be selling brilliantly right now. But I'd really like to, like, money's one for people, comes up all the time, 3 and 2, just not for me currently. Great. Now, this is something that I learned the hard way. I cannot tell you how much opportunity I wasted by simply accepting that these answers were true. I think if I was to take 100 sales conversations, I reckon 5 times out of 100, the objection that I got was an honest objection. The other 95, hypothetical numbers here, right? Don't quote me on these, but this is kind of like my gut feeling from how I felt back then. The other 95, I felt that they were just trying to fob me off. And I know that because then they would then ghost me, or then they would they would maybe say, oh, I'll come back in. Has anyone had this? I'll come back in a couple of months' time. Has anyone ever had that one before? A couple of months' time, and then you never hear from them ever again. Even when you follow them up, never hear from them ever again. Again, like it's something that's so common. I've used it in the past. I feel like shocking that I'm omitting this, but I've done it in the past. I'll come back to me in January. And then you have no intention of ever speaking to them in January, just pushes them away. And actually, just a reframe of the offer, a bit of scarcity, a bit of urgency, which is what we're going to go into now, will really, really help this. And what you need to figure out is whether you've got any low-hanging fruit that you're currently ignoring. And this is where I start with lots of people. Bearing in mind, this is about generating revenue in 30 days, right? This is about how can we quickly get money over the line and then consistently keeping it coming in. What I want you to do, and this is an action I want you to take, is go and take a look back at anyone who's shown interest in working with you. I want you to think about the answer to that question there. Like, what is it that they were looking for? And do you know the answer? Some people, and I'm really surprised by this, and this was a mistake that I made, when I was asked by Nick that question after a sales conversation, well, but they said that, like you've just said that they're not going to buy, but what was it they were looking for? The amount of times back then, a few years ago, I'd go, I actually don't know. It sounds stupid, and I feel silly admitting it. But the reality is I just wasn't getting enough of the information. I wasn't getting enough data to be able to work out actually what it was that they were wanting. And the gold is in the answers to those questions. The next question is, other than like cost, other than time, like why else did they not choose to work with us? So a typical question that I will ask, if I ever get like money as an objection, which I don't get very often now because of the way that our services are priced. But if I ever get money as an objection, I would actually ask the question really bluntly. It was like, well, let's imagine price wasn't an issue and we could actually get it to a point where you could afford it. What else like would you need to know not to move ahead? And you can sit there and you typically will find that there's other things. So if you take price out of the way and you go, okay, great. Well, if you can't afford £50 a month, let's say it was 10, right? Can you afford £10 a month? Well, yeah, obviously I can afford £10 a month. Okay, great. So if it's £10 a month, like why else wouldn't you move forward? Generally just curious. Like, again, is there a reason? Well, there's no reason. Okay, great. So suddenly you've then identified that cost was, or they didn't, let's say it's not cost, it's the fact that they didn't see the value in it. They didn't see it as worth £50 a month or 5 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. It's not that the fact that they haven't got the money, because I guarantee they're going to spend it somewhere. It's the fact that the way that you've positioned your offer is below the way other people have. And therefore, what they're seeing is their money is better spent elsewhere. That's typically certain ways that we overcome objections. Does anyone do sales calls on here? Can I just ask, is for everyone on here, there's just over 50 of you online. Does anyone do sales calls? So there's a few people that do. Shreyas does. We've got Theo that does. So we've got Steph that does. Nicola is a no. Great. Nicola, out of interest, with it, if you're not doing sales calls, how does a transaction happen normally? Do they just buy? Is it like an order form that they go to? I think there's, for any of you that haven't said that you take sales calls, could you just let me know? Because this is really important for me, because I need to make sure I cover it for everyone. Like, how does someone buy from you typically? Only ever have that after they've acquired 30-minute sales call. Great. Okay, so a few people sending them to an order form, attend a taste. Okay, great. That's perfect. So as long as I know, that's fine. So with it, what I want for any of you that are doing sales calls or discovery calls, whatever you call them, like you need to know the context as to why they're booking it in. If you're being recommended, if your business just comes from recommendations, like, do you know what these referrers are saying? Another big thing, your word of mouth referrals, the people that are passing you this business, they're selling you on your behalf, right? What language are they using to sell you? Do you know what it is? Because if you don't, and that's not then in your marketing, you're missing a big trick. These things are so obvious, really. But when you've got the answers to these things, you can then start to use them to create your marketing and sales messages properly. You can line up the current audience that you've got in front of you. So again, with it, you've all probably got LinkedIn networks, right? Maybe 500,000, 10,000, 50,000 people in there. And if you're currently getting a cost objection, right? And this always like blows my mind. Like I've spoken to some people and it's like, well, how much is your product? 5 grand. Okay, great. Well, why is it 5 grand? Okay, well, because I like plucked out thin air, I thought 5 grand seemed like a good price. I'm like, yep, that's ridiculous. I mean, how many customers have you got? Oh, I've had 2 in the last 6 months. Okay, great. How many people have said to you that they can't afford it? Oh, like quite a few. I've spoken to maybe 15 people. Okay, great. Ever thought about just putting your prices down a touch? Well, people say you shouldn't discount like that. Well, surely you'd rather have 10 clients paying you 3 grand than none paying you 5. And I'm being genuinely serious here. These are conversations that I have with people, and I'm not saying it to make people feel silly. I'm doing it to help everyone realize that there's opportunity in front of them right now if they just are open to changing a few things. Alyssa has asked, if you service non-profits, price and affordability is an issue. That's nothing to do with the way the value is. Typically, it could be, Alyssa, yes. But there are also things that you can do to help people make decisions faster and actually make it seem like a better buying decision for them. And we've worked with non-profits in the past. And yes, 100% price does become an issue, but there always is a way to make things work, I've found. Paul has said, I always ensure the investment is going to deliver a return. Yeah, 100% agree with you. Otherwise, why are we doing it? And I think the real important thing here is understanding what the business model needs to be to fulfill our own requirements. And I'm not going to ask you to put this in the chat box for me because this is personal. But when I'm going to go through this data in a second, it's important to understand where you're at. Some of you will be wanting just to get to like your first 10 grand a month, right? Like I just want to make 10 grand a month consistently. Some of you will be 20, some of you will be 50, some of it will be over 100. Like we deal with businesses of all shapes and sizes. We understand that everyone's at different stages, right? Some of you might be wanting to make just your first sale. Again, it's all totally fine. This information is completely relevant for you. But your starting point is noting down where you want to get to. What is your first goal? Is it 3 grand, 5 grand, 10, 15, whatever? Note it down because then you can start to reverse engineer it. Because if you're looking for, and I know that, again, really basic, if you're looking for 10 grand, and you can look at it and go, well, I need 10 customers that are going to pay £1,000 every month. Social media agencies, typical business model. 10 customers paying £1,000 a month gets you to 100 grand a year. Happy days. But when you've got step 1 and you understand what you need to do and where your opportunity is, you can then move to step 2, which is creating that no-brainer offer. Now, offers are something which, again, lots of people talk about publicly right now, but it is critical at this point that you take the time to work out the answers to the following questions. And with it, write them down if you can, or take a screenshot, whatever's easier for you. Is number 1, do you truly know the problem they're experiencing and the outcome that these people are after? Do you know what they want? Number 2 is then, do you have something that your customers want to buy, or are you trying to sell them something that you think is in their best interest? There is a difference there. The way that you create your offer has to be in the language of the client that you're trying to sell it to, not what you think they need to hear, but actually what they want to hear first. Right? First thing, you've got to get clear on what these answers are. Like I mentioned before, you've then got to find that product market fit. It becomes so much easier the moment you understand the language to use to get people to get excited about what it is you're trying to do. And I'm going to show you an example of this because I went through this own transition myself. And I think I've shared it with a couple of you previously because I've seen some of your names. But when you get this right, not only does selling become easier, but retaining clients becomes easier as well. And until you do it, it genuinely feels like the hardest battle trying to get people over the line. And with it, like I spoke to somebody, it wasn't yesterday, it was a day before yesterday, who was on the verge of giving up, right? Burning out due to the time that they were spending trying to sell, right? The only sales that they had made came from recommendations and referrals. They were on LinkedIn, network building, sending messages, posting content, and it was driving them insane how little they were getting, right? Time and time again, no responses, impressions that are under 500, no reactions. And when I asked them what it was that they were selling, they highlighted that it was personality profiling and then some leadership services, right? Leadership development services. And the problem with it was that I could see very easily and clearly why nobody was buying from him. Like, it was obvious. It's because the way that they were said, there were so many people doing personality profiling testing, so many people that call themselves leadership coaches and consultants and mentors, whatever. There was nothing that helped them stand out. And so they were just constantly in this battle. And this is the same experience that I went through. And what you have to do is frame what we all do in a way where our prospects really want what they've got to offer. And the example of this is actually back in 2020. So I used to sell 2-day Instagram trainings, right? 2-day workshops. This was run in Northampton in the Hilton Hotel. And I used to sell tickets for 500 quid. And it was a struggle. Like, that was a room there of 8 people. I think I gave 3 spots away. Sam's day next to me on the right-hand side. And it was a real struggle to sell. And with it, not all of you will struggle with this. Some of you may have things that you need to improve when it comes to your offers. Normally, everyone that I work with has some improvement to do in their offers. But we had a 2-day Instagram training that I used to go to networking events. I was on social media, and I used to find it a real tough sell. And then suddenly, I made the decision to change it. And I changed it from a 2-day Instagram course to a how to gain 1,000 followers in 30 days challenge. The cost, I was selling it at 500 quid. I thought it was a bit of friction when it came to cost. I was filling a room with 6 people. 500 quid was 3 grand. I was like, well, let's put it down to £10 a day for a 30-day challenge. Can you suddenly see the outcome focus of this? Give me a yes if you can see this in the chat, right? The difference between a 2-day Instagram challenge and a how to gain 1,000 followers in 30 days challenge. The focus is on the outcome now. Can you see that? We've gone from generic 2-day Instagram to suddenly a how to gain 1,000 followers in 30 days challenge. Now, with it, I typically ask you all now to choose which one you would go for, whether it would be the 1,000 or the 2-day. I mean, I'm going to ask, actually, which one would you be more likely to buy? If you're going to be the 2-day Instagram challenge, put 2. If you are 1,000, put 1,000. Just curious to where the split is. Majority of people, I mean, everybody actually now has come through with 1,000, right? And if you're all saying it, there's got to be something to this, right? Well, the numbers didn't lie either. In March 2020, I struggled to put 3 grand in the account. I switched this in April with an actual proper launch, the launch process that I'm taking you through now. And that is the best month we had that year. At that point, 25 grand from selling a £300 program. Suddenly I was selling things that somebody wanted, and getting that offer right can be actually the difference between struggling and suddenly getting all the customers that you wanted through the door. We then move into step 3. And that here is identifying the vehicle. Once you've got your offer in place, then to sell it. Is this all making sense so far, by the way? We've only gone through the first 2 steps. I'm now going to start to quicken up as we go through. Making sense so far. Step 1, identify the opportunity. Step 2 is the offer. Step 3 now is to get yourself a vehicle to sell this offer as frequently as you possibly can. So none of us, we need to realize this, none of us are on social media, unless it's TikTok shop and Instagram shop, right? I get those 2 things. But none of us are on social media to buy things. And so I always say to anyone that works with us, why are we utilizing these platforms in the hope that other people are when we aren't? We're on social media, right, for 2 reasons. Number 1, for our own selfish reasons, so to sell. Or number 2, which is the most common reason, which is because we're bored. It's a distraction. The doom scrolling is real, right? I've probably had, I reckon, out of this group today, probably 5 or 6 of you that have probably been scrolling whilst I've been talking right now. That's right, I am watching you. When it comes to this stuff, like, the reality is people are distracted all the time. And so if you want to start to win on these platforms, you've got to understand what to feed them with. The mindset that you need to have as part of this whole process is that whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, X, whatever it is that you're using, these platforms are traffic sources, a place to connect with potential clients. That is it. And therefore, trying to sell or pitch what it is that you do directly on these platforms is never going to work, whether it's in direct messages or whether it's in content. And on the right-hand side there are two examples that have utilized what we call a conversion vehicle, conversion asset, conversion piece of content. This is, so what you're on right now, a webinar is a type of that, right? So Jess and Odile both ran webinars, which is something that we train quite heavily on to pitch products and pitch services. And on my account, these are three that you can use. Number one is a webinar. So I run a webinar like I'm running now. Two is an audit. So an audit, and for those of you that connected me on LinkedIn, did you hear me say that for 5 of you that I'd give a Loom video to? Give me a yes if you remember me saying that. 5 of you would get a free Loom video, like reviewing your work, right? That's an audit, right? That's a conversion mechanism, because what I'm going to do on that audit is go, this is what you're doing well, this is what you're doing badly, here's the opportunity for you. If you want a chance to work with us to fix those problems, bang, come and work with us. Otherwise, here's 3 top tips. That's my Loom video structure. Takes me 3 minutes to do, but with it, it's a conversion vehicle, because when people get that, it's personalized to them. And they're like, well, actually, I've not heard this before. Boom. Okay, let me see how this is going to work. And then for those of you that said discovery calls, I wouldn't call them a discovery call. Right? Straight away, top tip. Don't call what you're doing a discovery call. Switch it to something which is outcome focused, so people feel like they're going to get something from it. For me, I give people a free social media strategy call. I'm going to show you how to get leads on the call. Suddenly, people want to book it. If I was a social media discovery call, no one's going to book it. No one cares. No one's got the time to give you. Time's precious. Give them a reason to give you their time, and your conversion numbers will go through the roof. That should say last week's webinar, right? Big thing here to realize. Last week's webinar that I ran, 80% of the traffic that came to it came from my email list. 20% from myself. Who here has an email list? Give me a yes in the chat if you have an email list. One of the most important things that you can have when it comes to marketing and selling your services online. And if you are not growing it every single day, you are leaving yourself opportunity on the table. Huge quick wins that you can get if you start to focus in on having an email list building mentality. Because, I mean, out of curiosity, how did you hear about this workshop today? For those of you that are here, was it email or did you register on social, right? Let's just see the answers and see where people came from, just out of curiosity. So we've had 3 emails so far, 2 LinkedIn. More, there's another email in, another email in. So nice little balance. Another couple of LinkedIns in here, right? More emails coming in. Some of you are sending them to host and panelists, so you can't see all the answers. So this one's actually more of a, I would say, 70-30 split. Now, realistically, we have 50 of you on, right? So it's about right. So email, get the permission to be able to email market to them, and then you can utilize it to promote. The replay that I then run, so when I get the replay out from my last one, that gave us an extra 5 additional sales off the back of it. Like, you've got to work out and sit there and work out, like, what is it that you're currently doing to move your connections to customers? Because if you don't do that and you're just trying to sell to them on social media, you're never going to consistently win. To win on social, you've ironically got to move them off of social to a place where you have control, to a place where you have permission to market, to a place where then you earn the right to sell your services. And once you've got that vehicle, you build out the process. So this is the process that we build inside of our academy students process, right? So we start in clarity on the left-hand side. So we get your products right, your offer, your audience, and your message. Those 4 things you've got to get right. Don't get those things right, social is completely pointless for you. Those 4 things right, and then you move down the process. So you begin and you choose a connection platform. So the majority of you on here, I imagine, would choose LinkedIn, but there's loads that you can do. You can then go, right, if I've got a LinkedIn audience, how do I then move them off the platform? Well, typically, you give something away for free, is what we call a lead magnet, to collect the data. And then from there, they will get the PDF or the video, you will get their email address. When you get their email address, you can then move into conversion. And conversion could be, oh, you know what, I'm going to email them and promote a webinar, or I'm going to promote an audit, or I'm going to send them my scorecard, or I'm going to send them a video, or, do you know what, I'm going to send them a full review and then a proposal. And on that conversion mechanism, there then is a next step, which is, you know what, if you enjoyed this, book a call. If you enjoyed this, book a meeting. If you enjoyed this, go to the order form. If you enjoyed this, drop me an email. Different conversion processes in place to then allow you to close and generate more customers. And with that, then you then build out your campaign. You look at the mechanism, you go, right, this is what I want to build. I'm going to choose a webinar campaign, right? And you build out the funnel. Now, this is not something that I expect you to all to understand right away. We teach this step by step, but you've got to take a screenshot of this at least, right? Connection on the left-hand side for my web. This is just my webinar campaign, right? Left-hand side, I have my LinkedIn profile. I build my network. I send my direct messages every day. I have my podcast. I do live talks in room. I have a YouTube channel. All of that effort goes into building my email list, not to sell my services, build my email list. Once I've built my email list, I then run email campaigns to drive people into webinar opt-in forms. Now, that could be an audit, a sales, it could be anything. But the process allows then the percentages to play their part. So if I can get 100 people to register to a webinar, I'll get 50 people to show up, and typically then between 5 to 20 will buy. It's the process. That is how you get consistency. It's how you get sustainability. And it's how you don't leak opportunity. Because the process, like I mentioned at the beginning, is connected. And what most people fail to realize is that you can be doing all of these things, but unless they're connected, you are leaking huge amounts of opportunity. And that's what I took. Like when I speak to people on the first, I normally have like a 15-minute call with the majority of people. And the first thing that I'll do is identify these gaps, because it's identifying these gaps that give people the low-hanging fruit and the quick wins that then build the momentum for the longer-term sustainable wins. And when you've then got that process in place, you can start to execute that plan and ramp up your activity, because I think lots of people go all in too quickly. And what happens is you end up burning out. And so what you've got to do is get the foundations of your process in place first, automate as much as you can, and then go again and add another, and then add another and add another. So I've got 6 or 7, as you saw there, different traffic sources to help build our email list. But I started with one. And that, again, begins with things like network building and outreach. So on LinkedIn, you can build your network every single week, right? I've done loads of workshops on LinkedIn, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this section here today, because you can watch all of my other workshops on this. But there's some things that I'm just going to tell you that you should be doing. You should be maxing out your LinkedIn network requests every single week without fail. 100 to 150 a week. It's free traffic. You'd be silly not to. Number 2 then is send a message to every single person that connects with you with the aim of driving them to your email list. Most people send LinkedIn messages and get them horrendously wrong. On the right-hand side there, you'll see an example of one of the messages that I could send. After literally thousands of messages that we've sent, depending on the audience. So if you're targeting corporate, it's very different to targeting solopreneur and founder, very different. But we've got campaigns for each of them. But with it, the same thing applies. You need a bit of TLC, and you need to understand that it's a human on the other side of this interaction. So first objective, email address. Second objective, conversation to get them to remember you. And with it, these are things that are just obvious, but you need to do. So you can see on the right-hand side here, like these are the messages that I get constantly from my messaging. Most people get ignored when they send messages. I get typically a thank you, I'm delighted. Thanks so much, Chris. Thanks for inviting. Can you help me out? Thank you. If you're not getting these sorts of responses, your messaging is wrong. And with this then begins relationships. And on my account, between 50 to 100 messages are sent every single day. I will then, and this is something that you all should do, get a piece of content out there every single day. It's not hard to do. Yes, there may be the odd day that you miss, but if you're not out there every single day, there will be competition out there that's doing this and doing it every day that are pinching your attention. With content, it's a bit more complex than what some people play it out to be. These algorithms, like people pretend that they understand like what it is that they're doing. They never really change. The only thing that changes is our behavior towards content, and that then pushes more and more of the same content towards us. The biggest reality check is If you look at your LinkedIn profile, normally it's the same 15 to 20 people on it every single day. And so you've got to earn the right to someone's newsfeed, and you earn the right to someone's newsfeed by posting certain types of content. And the content is there that performs well. Now, again, take a screenshot of that. That's what we call connection content. It's created to build a bigger following, drive more impressions, to get more attention, and earn the right to get into your target market's newsfeed. I give you this one for free. If you're not getting your target market engaging on your content, it's not because they don't like it. They just do not see it. Because you've not earned the right to get into the top 20 posts on the newsfeed. And here's the thing, right? When you go onto LinkedIn, you may scroll past 10 pieces of content before you then come off the platform and go on to another one. If your piece of content is not in the top 10 of every person's newsfeed that you want it to be, again, why are we creating it? You've got to understand this to play the game properly. Is this value for the customer or helping the LinkedIn? Do you want to expand on that, Alyssa, just so I've got it? Because I don't understand the question fully. But again, with it, you can see here, when you get content right, just like Philippa had, 7,000 followers to 7,600, 32 messages of people wanting to work with her. From one piece of content, they reach nearly 500,000 people. Most people aren't even getting 1,000 impressions on this platform, right? With only 900 followers, right? Zoe was able to reach 133,000 people. With the right type of content, when you do it, you then get those messages through. If you're not getting inbound requests, if you're not getting people responding to your content needs to change. You need a content strategy that's going to drive reactions, drive people to have conversations, become interesting and want to talk to you. And getting it right changes it all, right? Matt Fletcher is a prime example of this. Not the most exciting subject in the world, right? Remanufacturing services, refurbishment, repair. Matt's got 30,000 followers, like reach of 127,000 on a post from following that content strategy that Sam gave him. 8,000 profile views, 18 new customers this month, all through LinkedIn. This stuff, right? It is insane. Matt ended up doing a 3-year contract with 1.2 million from LinkedIn content. And with it, I appreciate the fact that all this stuff takes time. And so when you get your campaign up and running, automation is a thing that you can look at. Email marketing, lead magnet automation, CRMs, all of these things can be utilized as tools to be able to really save you time. And this is stuff that we teach day in, day out, because it's so important. Like, you've got to be able to get your time back. And so from direct messaging, direct sales, network building, content scheduling, like once you've got your process working, you can then utilize that technology. We then move into the final step then, which is once you've got that process done, you've got to focus your attention onto email list building and then sales activity every day. That needs to be your focus point. When we work with any of our academy members, we build like 30-day, I guess we look at it, we'll have a 15-minute call and be like, right, 30-day plan. And what are we going to do for the next 30 days? And then the process, then we focus in on, like Angie did on the right-hand side there, drives the sales through. Angie picked a webinar, but we have people doing scorecards, we have people doing audits, we have people doing strategy calls. But when you've got a conversion mechanism in place and you've got the data in front of you, when you've run one campaign, you look at the data and you pick one thing, you improve it, and then you do it again. You pick another thing, you do it again. You do another thing, and you do it again. You rinse and repeat, compound the activity, and you're always looking to improve. You set your targets, you review them, you're analyzing, you keep going. You get feedback inside of our community on these things, but really valuable to get feedback on stuff. Because do you know what? Sometimes, does anyone ever feel like they can give advice to other people really well? Give me a yes in the chat if this is you. You can see what other people need to do to improve. But when it comes to your own stuff, sometimes it's really hard to see where you're going wrong. Anyone else have that feeling ever? Is it just me? It might just be literally just me. Like, I can find it really, really easy to see where other people are making mistakes. But actually, when it comes to doing it myself and looking at my own business, I struggle. Sometimes you just need that outside looks, that attention. And when we do it, you can see the responses. 3 signups, 14 more calls to be booked in. And it's what we need to do all together. Like, you build out that email list, right? You create that offering, you remove everything else, and you focus in on that process alone. And with it, the sales come. This process isn't complex. I hope you agree with it. It's very, very simple what I'm talking about here. But you've got to apply it. And when you feel like you don't want to do it, you need someone to kick you up the arse and then do it again. Because social selling as a concept is really, really simple. Right? So, so simple. You just need the right mindset. You need the right messaging to get people to react. And then you need to test it and get feedback on it. And the Social Selling Academy today, right? What I'm going to talk to you about today is £50 per month, right? To learn all of the stuff that I've just spoken to you about. It's £50 a month and it's training. So again, we have hours and hours of step-by-step training that teaches these processes. We then have challenges every single month that drive the accountability to make sure that you do this work. And then on a Monday and a Thursday, we've got a session today at 2 p.m. and Thursday, and Monday at 12 p.m. There are group mentoring sessions where we do training and Q&A. So we help people. We then have a community that also allows people to get feedback on every single part of the process. We review websites, emails, content, direct messaging, sales calls, webinars. We give you feedback on all of it. And then we have our own inbuilt technology, CRM, lead magnet hosting, email marketing is coming into it. We have data tracking, link tracking to help you identify where you need to improve. It's 50 quid a month, right? And that process there is what we go through with you. We pick out connection, right? We pick out a method. We then teach you how to control it. And we build PDFs. We show you how to build the PDFs, the workshops, the videos, the one-to-one conversations, how to have them. We then show you how to run webinars if you want to run them. We teach you this structure here. Free sessions, audits, scorecards, meetings. We teach you all of that. And then we teach you closing calls, order forms, all the technology, all the things that we utilize day to day, we teach and give you so you can then utilize it as well. We have an expert team in place. There's 5 of us that work inside of the academy. There's me, Sam, Nick, Zoe, and Elise. We track your objectives, you set targets, and then we work together as a group. There's over 200 of us in the group, all driving forward, all listening, all applying, and all adapting every single month. You can see there our circle community. Like, we review everything from profiles, like I mentioned. The support is unlimited. You can get as much support as you need with this because, do you know what? We have the ability to be able to deliver it at a price point that I think is actually ludicrous and ridiculous. And Donna McGrath is someone that's seeing like incredible results from the stuff that we do together. She did 7.5 grand after struggling 2 days before, like really struggling, 7.5 grand then, and then 45 grand 2 days after that, just from a couple of conversations inside of the community like this. You can see the technology there on the right-hand side, really easy, simple to use. That is our social selling suite, our own built platform. It's cost an absolute fortune to develop, but it removes all the procrastination. We're going to get you to focus in on generating revenue and then utilizing these social media platforms to build your business. And so with it, you have the ability to join us today. And for the first 5 people that do, you're also going to get a 30-minute conversation with me on your strategy. But there's certain things that you get as well. So we also run in-person mastermind days. So we have one, I think it's in a couple of weeks' time. It's in Birmingham. You have to pay, like, £100 a ticket to be able to come to it as one of our members. But with it, we put lunch on for you, food on for you, and it's a great day, 40 to 50 of us in a room. And again, it becomes really, really fun as well. We absolutely love it. But it's £1.67 a day if you break it down, £50 plus the VAT per month. Again, with it, first 5 people, as I mentioned, you get a 30-minute call with me. And you can see there's a QR code on the right-hand side. Right? QR code on the top right-hand side. If you just scan that QR code, I'm going to put the link in here for you as well, for those of you that need the link. And then I'm going to answer some questions as well, because I'm going to have a few minutes to answer some for you. socialselling.co.uk/join. Look, you don't have to join it. Like, people always say to me, like, well, like, how's it going to work? What's the onboarding like? We will walk you through onboarding. We'll take you through it. At the end of the day with it, it's £50 plus VAT per month. Like, come and give it a go for a month and see whether, like, what I'm saying, we can back it up. We have over 200 members that are active in this thing. It's ridiculous in what we do, but the results speak for themselves. And if you don't like it, just leave. Like, our attention is through the roof because the value in this thing, I hope I'm not over-egging. Like, the 7 steps today, not difficult. You probably already knew a lot of them, but there may be a few things in there that you can apply. When you go through the process of this and implement it, it is insane, like, the value that you will see. So I'm not afraid to shout loud about this product whatsoever. I think it's ridiculous. Socialselling.co.uk/join, £50 plus VAT per month. And with that being said, I'm now going to go into some Q&A. Now, before I do, was that helpful for everybody? Yes, it's just for the first 5 people, that join, that get the 30, because I literally don't have the time. I literally have 5 spots in my calendar. I will give you the times when you join. Once I've done that, we will have the call and then we'll go through. But everyone else, you're going to get an onboarding call anyway, right? You'll still get a call. It just won't be personally with me. Now, QR code is there. The QR code, I believe, is working. Let me just check on my phone before I go into Q&A. Just check. See if this is going to work. And then I will go into some Q&A for you. Bang. There we go. Yes, that is all working as well. Perfect. Excellent. That's working. So with all that being said, let's go into some Q&A. Yes, people found it helpful. That is good news as well. It's good to hear. So Q&A. Alyssa, you did come back to me. I saw your message. Let me scroll back and find it. My clients do value personal images and prefer client value based. However, many things of the personal get more visibility on LinkedIn. How do you balance it? You balance it by having a nice blend and by actually utilizing the personal images with the values. So this is something that if you look at my account, I've reached, I think, 300,000 people this month. And I've done it by talking about value-based content, but with topics that make it personal. And there's a strategy with that, but really, really important. Susanna Perry, of all the things you showed us in connection control, how many of these should we be doing? The answer is as many as you possibly can, right? So the biggest thing, though, is realizing how much time you've got. So one of the things I spend lots of time talking to people about in the community is that you do one, you automate it. And automation is a thing that most people forget about. You automate as much as you can, then you do another. Then you automate, you get it profitable, then you do another. And so like with it, in control, I've got 5 different lead magnets out. I've got a number of different mini courses out. We've got a couple of ebooks out there. I create a lead magnet every month normally. Sam and Nick have their own as well. With Connection, I'm on LinkedIn, on YouTube, I'm on Instagram. I've got like 30,000 followers on Instagram that I've built, a Facebook community of 5,000 people that I'm in. It's like I've built up these over time. And the reality is you just can't do them all right. So you pick one, you get it right, you master it, you do another. You pick another and you do it over and over and over again. And so this is why it's about consistency at that point. Sustainability and profitability come from like doing this over a longer period of time. But you get results in month 1, your month 2 results become better, 3 compound. So you can imagine in a year to 2 years, like some of our customers have worked with us for like 3 to 4 years. Like they have just compounded over and over again, but they're always got the mindset of I can get better. And this is the stuff that I need you to realize. Paul, great stuff. I believe you might be one of the 5. So I will make sure that I check it out as soon as I finish. Amazing. Good to have you on board. Can you promote webinars and direct downloads from your personal LinkedIn account to collect email? No, you can definitely do that on your personal. I do it on my personal account all the time. Definitely, yes. Don't think there's any more questions, actually. It's quite a quiet one. Anyone have any final questions? I'll give you another minute to ask any questions, and then otherwise I'll give you your time. We're just 1 minute over now, so I don't know if there's any more of those calls left. I'm really sorry. I don't know. As soon as I'm finished, I will double check. Amazing, cool. Well, there's no questions come through. I will stop sharing for now. Thank you all so much for your time. I'm really, really glad that you enjoyed it. There is one more, I think, question come through. No, all good. Can you get this sent it to us? Yes, I will send a replay out. It'll probably be in about 24 hours time. You'll get it. I need to download it and edit it. Mike Black, what system I use? It's our own system. So we developed it. We spent quite a lot of money developing it out, but we don't use other systems like ClickFunnels or Go High Level, all the ones that everyone else. We have our own system that we give you, so you utilize our own one. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. It's been a really, really good, fun hour. Thank you much for your engagement. It's made it really, really useful. For those of you that have joined us, can't wait to work with you. For those of you that have enjoyed the session, you're going to take it. I'm glad. Go take action. Go do some work and get it done. I'm running workshops pretty much every other week at this current point, so feel free to come to another. Thank you very much and see you all soon. Bye-bye.